أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله الذي أحسن خلق الإنسان وعدله وأفاض على قلبه خزائن العلوم فأكمله، ثم أمده بلسان يترجم به عما حواه قلبه وعقله ويكشف عنه ستره الذي أرسله. Praise be to God, who created the human being in perfection and beauty, and gave the human being balance and proportion, who poured out over the human heart storehouses of all different types of knowledge, thus giving the human being unique perfection in creation and perfection upon perfection. Praise be to God, who extended to the human being the gift of the tongue, the gift of language, with its ability to express all the treasures that the heart contains and all that the intellect grasps, a tongue that exposes us by removing from us the veil that God had covered us over with before we could speak. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق وأكرمه وبجله عز وجل وأرسله بلسان عربي مبين وبخير كتاب أنزله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ما كبر الله عبد مؤمن وهلله. I bear witness that there is no God but God. He is one, exalted be He. He is alone in His divinity. He has no partner. And I bear witness that our noble Lord and Master Muhammad, God extol him and grant him perfect peace, is God's servant and His messenger. God ennobled and exalted His prophet and sent him to humankind with a clear Arabic tongue that was manifestly clear, and He gave him the greatest of all the revelations that were ever given, the Quran. And we ask God also to bless with him his noble companions, his wives, his families, and all those who follow him with ihsan until the day of judgment, as long as there remains on earth a single believing servant of God who declares his greatness and affirms his oneness by saying, La ilaha illallah. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون فاستبقوا الخيرات أينما تكونوا يأتي بكم الله جميعا إن الله على كل شيء قدير وأوصيكم ونفسي الخاطئة بتقوى الله تعالى فاتقوا الله حق تقواه أما بعد فإن اللسان جرمه صغير وجرمه كبير فلذلك مدح الشارع الصمت وحث عليه إلا بالحق وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث صحيح رواه الإمام البخاري من يضمن لي ما بين لحييه وبين رجليه أضمن له الجنة. As for what follows, this tongue of ours, this amazing gift of language that we have, that's embodied in this little piece of flesh, this tongue is very small, yet the evil that it is capable of is immense, as also the good that it's capable of. For this reason, the prophetic teaching has praised silence and urged us to think before we speak and to pay attention to what we say and to judge ourselves in that process. And whenever we speak, to speak the truth, to verify what we say, to know that it is correct, and then to consider also, does it harm? Because sometimes the truth is harmful. Backbiting is always a statement of truth. And then also, if it is true and it doesn't harm, does it benefit? If we cannot check those three boxes, then the best thing is to... The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi, in an authentic narration that's transmitted by Imam al-Bukhari, whoever will guarantee for me the proper use of what is between his two cheeks, that is the tongue, and what is between his two legs, that is, of course, the private parts, I will guarantee for him the garden. وجاء عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال لا يستقيم إيمان العبد حتى يستقيم قلبه ولا يستقيم قلبه حتى يستقيم لسانه وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث صحيح من صمت نجا وقال كذلك صلى الله عليه وسلم من سره أن يسلم فليلزم الصمت وجاء عنه أيضا صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا أخبركم بأيسر العبادة وأهونها على البدن الصمت وحسن الخلق. It is reported from the Messenger of God, God extol him and grant him perfect peace, that he said, the faith of God's servant will not be right until his heart is right. And the heart of God's servant will not be right until his tongue is right. We have to pay attention to how we use this gift of speech. We take it for granted, and that's something we should never do. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in a sahih narration, whoever keeps silence shall be saved. That is, of course, here and on the day of judgment. He also said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whoever would be happy to be safe, that is, in this world and the next, let him keep silence. This should be our culture. This is a culture we have to bring back to life. And our silence should pollinate our thought. And our thought should inform our speech. Decades ago, it was said about many of the greatest people on earth that they would always think twice before they spoke. Today, so many of us don't think at all, and this is a disaster. It is also transmitted from the Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, "Shall I not inform you of the easiest type of worship and the most convenient for the body? Silence and good character. Silence and good character. That's easy for all of us to do. And the reward of it is immense beyond words. And then everything we say becomes truthful and meaningful and beneficial. And then also the things we do, they become also an act of good to ourselves and to creation and to humanity." وقال الصحابي الجليل عبد-الله ibn Mas'ud رضي الله عنه لا شيء أحق بطول السجن من لسانك. وقال التابعي الكريم طاووس اليمني رحمه الله تعالى لساني سبع إذا أطلقته أكلني. ويروى من حكمة الملوك السابقين أنهم كانوا يقولون إذا قلت الكلمة ملكتني، أي صارت هي الملك، ولم أملكها، وإذا لم أقلها ملكتها ولم تملكني. وما أحوجنا إلى مثل هذه الأحاديث وهذه الحكمة الموروثة المطبقة في يومنا هذا عصر التواصل الاجتماعي الذي يكاد أن لا يترك لنا قائدا ولا إماما ولا شيئا نبيل. The illustrious companion of the Prophet, Abd-Allah ibn Mas'ud, God be pleased with him, he said, "Nothing is more deserving of a long prison sentence than your tongue." Hard for us to understand that today. We talk and we have social media and everything else, but we need to wake up to this reality. The noble successor, Tawus the Yemeni, one of the most beautiful of the successors, he said, God have mercy on him, "This tongue of mine," speaking about himself, for our benefit, "is a predatory beast, sab'u, it's a lion. If I let it loose, it will eat me alive." We're also told that the kings of old used to say that when I speak a word, it becomes king. When I speak a word, it owns me and I don't own it. If that's true of a king, what about you and what about me? We have to be careful what we say. How many times do we say something and we would wish for the rest of our lives that we had never said it, and it would have been so easy not to say it. But when it escapes, then the results of it are there sometimes forever, a single word. And the kings would also say, but if I don't speak that word, then I own it and it doesn't own me. In other words, you're still king. May we learn to be silent. This is a very difficult lesson for us today. We live in the age of speech and advertisement and television and radio and social media and YouTube. We're bombarded with speech. And we even know that today knowledge for most people, even for Muslims, is not important. What's important is opinion. I have an opinion. Whether that's an informed opinion or not, that's not really what's important. So we need these hadith today very much. We need to take them seriously. They are as important today as they were yesterday. And again, we have to pay special attention to social media. which, as some have said, is actually anti-social media. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way. And there are among us organizations and men and women who use this social media with great finesse and great talent. But we have to beware. And today when we speak also, isn't it strange that we never speak just to the group who's seated in front of us, but invariably we speak to the whole world. And what we say can be twittered everywhere and pasted on Facebook. So more than ever, we have to pay attention to what we say. And really, we need to bring back that culture of thinking twice before we speak, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It's so difficult to do that. But this is something that requires training. And just like athletics, martial arts, learning your profession, your art, whatever it is you do, you train at it over and over again. And after a while, it becomes natural. You can do the moves without thinking about them. And so also, we have to pay attention to the way we speak. Is it true? Will it harm? And if it won't, then will it benefit? And if we can't check the three boxes, the best thing to do is to keep silent. One of the things our great scholars of the past have also told us about many times, never feel compelled to correct every mistake. That we regarded that to be bad adab. You know, that every mistake people make, we don't have to correct. We should correct only what is important, and then again, we do it with words of wisdom and as an act of love, not of condescending. And we do it to try to benefit that person, and it's better to do it in private. You can correct me in public, and I appreciate that. But I would prefer you do it in private. Whenever we correct each other in public, actually, it's like an attack on the person. That's the way they usually take it. قال التابعي الجليل حسن البصري رضي الله عنه لسان المؤمن وراء قلبه أي منقاد لعقله ولسان المنافق أمام قلبه أي تابع لهواه وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث مشهور الذي عده العلماء دعامة من دعائم هذا الدين العظيم من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. نسأل الله أن يوفقنا للعمل بهذا الركن. وحسن الصمت وحسن الكلام من ثمار ترك الإنسان لما لا يعنيه، وهو كذلك من باب إقباله على ما يعنيه. وكتب الخليفة الراشد عمر بن عبد العزيز رضي الله عنه رحمه الله إلى المسؤولين في دولته الأموية، العمال كما كانوا يقولون المسؤولون: أما بعد، انظر إلى هذه الرسالة القصيرة جدا من الخليفة. أما بعد، فمن ذكر الموت كثيرا اقتنع بقليل من هذه الدنيا، ومن حسب كلامه من عمله قل كلامه إلا فيما يعني هذه الرسالة. The wise and illustrious successor Al-Hasan al-Basri, God have mercy on him, said, "The tongue of the believer stands behind his heart." That's where you and I want to put our tongues, behind our hearts. That means to say that the tongue of the believer should be trained to obey the intellect. So we think before we speak. But the tongue of the hypocrite, he said, stands in front of his heart. That is, he does not think before he speaks, and his tongue follows his whims and his passions. God's messenger, peace be upon him, said in a well-known hadith which Imam an-Nawawi and others have regarded to be 1/4 of the deen, one of the pillars of this religion. Part of the good Islam, the good submission to God of a person, is that he leave alone what does not concern him. Of course, that has a lot to do with speech, not talking about what is not my business. But if I do leave alone the things that are not my business and don't concern me, more than likely I will be preoccupied with my business. And that's what we want. Keeping silence and speaking good speech are part of the fruits of learning to leave what does not concern us and then to become concerned with that which is our business. I want to conclude this first khutbah with this beautiful letter of Umar ibn Abd-Aziz, this light of the early period of the end of the first century of Hijrah. We call him the fifth Khalifa, the fifth rightly guided Khalifa. And look at this letter he wrote to his governors. How short it was. It's one of the shortest letters ever. But he said, as for what follows, whoever calls death to mind frequently will be content with little in this world. So he's telling that to the Umayyad governors, who are among the most wealthy in the world, the most powerful in the world. They have palaces, they have armies, they have everything they want. So he says, remember death, that you will go to that grave. You will not be able to take these palaces with you. So remember death, and then you will be content with little. And he ended the letter by saying, whoever regards his speech to be his amal, to be a voluntary action, just like giving sadaqah, or just like building a mosque, or just like teaching a lesson, or doing the other things you do. We often speak without any consciousness of the fact that this is an amal. This is a voluntary action, and I will be held responsible for it. So he said, whoever considers his speech to be a voluntary action, about which, of course, God will judge him, will speak little except in what concerns him. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim. ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك بر رؤوف رحيم ورب حليم. God bless us and all of you in the glorious Qur'an. May He make our hearts love it and attach to it and get light from it. It's all about our actions. It's all about our speech. When we are right, the book opens itself for us. When we are wrong, sometimes it closes. May God benefit us by this great book and bring us to life through it. Truly God, exalted be He, is exceedingly generous and noble, a king who does only good, and who is compassionate and merciful, and all forbearing Lord. Astaghfirullah, ask God's forgiveness. Ask God's forgiveness for me and for all of us and for ourselves. Astaghfirullah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تعالى بفضله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل تعالى بعدله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى وبالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة. Praise be to God. We praise Him, we seek His help. We ask His forgiveness. We believe in Him, and we place our reliance upon Him. We seek refuge in God from the many evils of ourselves and from the bad deeds that we've done and that we do. We're all human beings. Whomever God guides out of His sheer bounty, guidance is an act of fadl, of sheer bounty. Whoever God guides out of His sheer bounty, there is none to lead astray. And whomever God misguides as an act of justice, there is none to lead aright. May we fear Him and love Him and serve Him truly. We bear witness that there is no God but God, and we bear witness that our noble Lord and Master, our patron and protector, Muhammad, He protects us through His teaching, through His example, through this brilliant lifestyle that He established, is God's servant and His messenger. God sent Him with the truth and is a bearer of good news and warning. God extol Him and grant Him perfect peace and His family and His companions and all of those who follow Him until the last day. قال الله تعالى ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. God says in Surah Qaf, no word does he, the human being, utter without a ready watcher beside him. إن الإنسان لا يلفظ بشيء بلسانه في الدنيا إلا وعنده ملك رقيب حافظ عتيد حاضر لا يفارقه مدى حياته يسجل عليه كل كلمة يقولها وكل صغير وكل كبير فلنراقب ذلك الملك ولنراقب ربنا عز وجل في ذلك الملك ولنعلم أن حسن الصمت وحسن الكلام يجمعان للمؤمن فضيلتين كريمتين السلامة في الدين والفهم عن أصحابنا ومن حولنا وحسن الصمت والحكمة في الكلام ينوران القلب ويلقحان العقل وهما مزرعة التقوى ومنبت الورع والوقار. No human being mentions a single word, but that there is there beside him during his life here on earth an angel present and ready. We believe in this. We have to believe in this. This is obligatory. There's nothing unscientific about it. There's nothing irrational about it. We believe in the unseen. We are not reductionists. We do not reduce reality to what we can hear, see, touch, taste, and smell. You cannot understand reality from that reductionist point of view. We believe in the unseen, and may we believe in the unseen firmly. May we never forget that. God, enable us to believe strongly, and not just to make our belief words we say, but words we know to be true. And may He let us wake up from the stupor that many of us, including myself, often live in. God, let us attend to Him, to God, by attending to ourselves and attending to that spiritual reality that is all around us as manifested in the angels and in others. May we never forget the wisdom. May we never forget that wisdom and discretion in speech and silence provide the believer with two supreme noble qualities. Good religious practice. You have to speak well and you have to keep silent if we want to have a deen that is sound. And then they also give us another quality, which is the ability to understand each other. When I talk all the time and never listen, then it's all about me and it's never about you. We have to be silent also so that we learn about other people, what their problems are, what their reality is, and this is the way of the believer. May we never forget that wisdom and discretion in speech and silence, especially anti-social media, it's so easy to click that button, and it can be so destructive. None of you has to be told about that. And as I've said before, anti-social media, the use of social media in an anti-social way, this may leave us with no leaders at all, with no one we respect in this community. One of the basic principles of Islam is al-yaqinu la yazulu bi-shak. Certainty is not removed by doubt. We have leaders, we have teachers, we have great men and women in our communities all over the world. What we know about them based on the decades of their service and lives, we don't allow to be overturned by a rumor or by an attack that is posted on the so-called social media. We have to really be careful. We've got to learn the protocols for using social media, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Wisdom in speech and wisdom in silence, so that your speech comes out of silence. This also enables us to develop taqwa, to develop discretion, to develop also dignity, which is the cloak of the believer. Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahsana bi lutfihi kulla shay'in bada'a wa atqana sun'a kulli shay'in ansha'a. Alhamdulillahi al-zahiri fi uluwihi bi qahrihi عن غير بعد الباطن في دنوه بقربه من دون مس. Praise be to God who made beautifully everything he originated in creation in his subtle kindness, and who made perfectly everything he brought forth into existence from sheer nothingness. Praise be to God who is manifest in his highness by virtue of his all-compelling force, qahar, without being physically far away, and who is hidden in his closeness by virtue of his nearness, without physical contact. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبه المصطفى الكريم المختار نبي آخر الزمان آخر الأيام كما يقول أهل الكتاب النعمة المسداة الرحمة المهداة صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته وأهل بيته أجمعين. God says regarding the supreme excellence of his beloved, the chosen one, the prophet of the end of days, as the people of the book called him, the one selected for the greatest good and the greatest perfection, unlimited mercy to humankind and to the creation. Truly God and his angels invoke blessings upon the Prophet. O you who believe, invoke blessings upon him and greetings of peace. Allahumma bika nasta'inu fa'a'inna, wa bika nastaghithu fa'aghithna, wa alayka tawakkalna fakfina, ya kafi al-muhimmat ikfina, humumana wa hammana في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين وأعل بفضلك كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر المسلمين الروهينجا في بورما، وانصر المسلمين في الشامبا، وانصر المسلمين في فلسطين، الفلسطينيين حيثما كانوا، وأهل سوريا والشام، وأهل هذه البلاد نسنترة وما حولها، وجميع بلاد المسلمين. وانصر الإسلام والمسلمين في كل مكان. ونسألك أن تبارك كذلك في قادتنا وفي أئمتنا وفي كبارنا. ونسألك يا الله أن تبارك في شرف الدين إدريس شاه سلطان سلنغور، وكذلك في الملك محمد الخامس، وكذلك في كل الأشراف وفي كل النبلاء وكل الأعيان في هذا البلد وفي غيره. نسأل الله أن يهديهم وأن يصلحهم وأن يبارك فيهم، آمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقم الصلاة.
الله